Hi, I'm Nan Simonson, and I want to welcome you to PowerPoints, Points of Interest that relate to lifestyle as medicine. I had a numbered series, a number of weeks, 14 weeks, and we had a subject every week. Well, I decided to just keep it going. And I don't know if I'm going to keep numbering weeks, but then it's easier to relate to whatever week I had a subject in. So we'll see what happens, but this then would be week number 15. And what I'm talking about today is the gut, your mood, and your mind. They are so interrelated. There's a project that's going around my city that's available for people to buy into, but my the clinic, the lifestyle medical clinic through which I am a health coach, is offering it to our patients for free from the 23rd of September to November 1st. And it's called the Lift Project. Our city is promoting it to the populace, and the medical clinic is encouraging patients to take advantage of it. And it was created by a doctor in Australia, and it's going globally. And it's called the Lift Project. The point being, with little things, we can help you lift your mood and your health. Isn't that a wonderful imperative? I would love to know that people could, in little ways, improve mood and health. Well, I'll use the word married to the College of Lifestyle Medicine, as is my clinic, I already embrace pillars of health. Well, this is pillars of health, but some of which we haven't put a name to, we haven't turned into an educational piece the way they have in this Lift Project. But the thing I want to talk about today is a take on something I talk about all the time, and I'm not going to spill the beans. I'll let it unfurl. And it is described in a way that is, I think, unique. And maybe at the end, I'll tell you what I meant by all of that. But I am teaching, the patients are going online. They're learning from this presentation that is online. And then we at the clinic are offering time slots, and I happen to have a time slot on Monday at 3 where patients can connect on our Zoom open forum link and have a conversation about the Lift Project. So this is week 1 of Lift, and I became familiar with it. I loved what he was talking about as it relates to week 1. And what we're beginning with is what Dr. Morton, who put this together, and I'm sure he has quite a collaboration, calls the limbo, the limbo, L-I-M-B-O, capital L. And what he means is the limbic system. Our brain has an ancient part of it, an ancestral part, an evolutionary part that some people call the lizard brain, because it is so rudimentary, fundamental. And then we have the cerebral cortex, which is where we do a lot of our, not just a lot, but most of our reasoning and planning and executive function things. But the limbic brain is like a 2-year-old. It's not very smart. It's not very directive, but it controls mood, it controls memory, and not exclusively, but controls mood and memory. And just a moment, I need to do something. And it is, I'm just toggling something on my, there, okay. And it controls our basic bodily functions. That's why when people call it the lizard brain, it doesn't take much for a lizard. There's not a lot of reasoning. It's going to do what it needs to do to stay alive. So the heart beats, the digestive system works there. It controls hunger, it controls thirst, and it's pretty simple in that way, automatic in that way. But we have a way of affecting that we can control. And so I'm going to read you my notes. If you've visited me on any of these, a lot of times I'll read the notes of somebody whose opinions not only do I admire, but I'd like to share. And rather than paraphrasing the whole thing and getting it wrong, I'm not going to. Over 2,000 years ago, Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." What research has shown us more and more, and there is overwhelming research that is showing this, is that our food has the power to do things for and with our body that medicines cannot do. For example, many medicines will quell pain, will mitigate symptoms, but very seldom do they cure a disease. Our food can cure what's going on with our bodies, because our bodies want to be well. If given what they need, they can do that. We humans experience emotions for a reason. For example, we experience fear as part of our fight or flight response. That keeps us alive. Again, ancestrally, it kept us from being devoured by predators. We knew to flee due to fright. We experience love because it leads to bonding, self-sacrifice, and the perpetuation of our species. Here's an interesting question. Why do we experience low mood or depression? Why would we have the capacity to do that? And recently, there have been studies by scientists who have come up with what they think is the answer. Our current modern population dies primarily from lifestyle-related illnesses, but that wasn't always the case. Historically, our populations died and were taken down due to bugs and infection. And in this, I'll say the LIFT project in general, they have avoided getting deeply into the weeds physiologically and even verbally. When I say bugs, there are times I go into the whole thing about what these bugs can be, but we're going to leave it at just bugs because I can go faster that way. It's pretty much the way they're explaining things. And I think you get the gist of it that way. So bugs and infectious diseases were what took us down primarily in the past. As with then, when we got a bug, our body tends to, and when we get a bug, our body tends to do two things. We conserve energy. We usually sleep and rest. And because fighting bugs is a demanding task, we slow down. We usually stop what we're doing. We usually demand rest. But also, we usually, just by nature, stay away from people. We tend to somewhat isolate. Leave me alone, I need to sleep. And we could do that for days. Well, that helped us help protect the species because it helped quell, let's say, the spread of illness. And all of us listening to this know exactly what isolating and the imperative of that looked like. For a general world population. That's actually a protective mechanism that we'll do individually, and you can see we've done societally. All of this is the responsibility of our immune system. In other words, the immune system to keep us alive has led us to respond to things in a certain way. Flight or fight, rest or digest, and again, isolate to get well. In other words, a way of fighting off foreign invaders. When you think about it, low mood and social isolation are symptoms of depression. In other words, our brain creates a low mood as a way to best deal with foreign invaders. Could this help explain why today so many people are depressed? Now, here's where this takes an interesting turn. Antidepressants are one of our most sought after medications. Low mood and anxiety are experienced widely in our population. In Michael Pollan's best-selling book, In Defense of Food, he explains that most of what we eat today is not food, but food-like substances. It's not grown in the ground. It's grown in factories, found in boxes and packages. It would never be found in nature. And most of us, or in the case of most of us, our great-grandparents would have no idea that that was something we were supposed to eat. Now think about it. Think about a lot of the things that we get made for us. Food-like substances. They're also not recognized as food by our body. Instead, they're recognized as foreign invaders, which can then elicit what? An immune response. These foods just keep coming in addition to the initial aggravation of our immune system. They just keep coming and coming daily and coming quite often, morning, noon, and night, in the form of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even snacks. In other words, we're bombarded by things that our body doesn't know what to do with. The solution is obvious: to eat less manufactured food and to eat more real food. What is real food? It's food from the ground. It's food from the trees. It's food from bushes. In other words, it's fruits and vegetables, beans and grains, seeds and nuts, herbs and spices, things that we can identify as an actual food product, close to nature. Michael Pollan summed up his entire book in these words: eat food, and he meant real food. Eat food, not too much, mainly plants. Your body recognizes these as a friend, not a foe. And when we consume them, in most cases, we do not get an immune response. Now, I wrote in there, in most cases, because some of us, some of you, have immune responses, an allergic response to some foods. I can't have gluten. Probably I could at one time, but things have changed a lot in the way gluten, meaning wheat and barley and rye and farro, are produced, that have caused my body to decide that they are a foe. You may be thinking, yeah, for me it's this, or for me it's that, and we're all very different. In other words, they can put us on a real downer. Research, such as a study in England with 80,000 people, has shown that the more fruits and vegetables, and when I say fruits and vegetables, this is what Dr. Morton repeated, fruits and vegetables, but what we're talking about in general are plants, okay? The more fruits and vegetables we eat, the happier we are. Now, he's talking about mood. The more fruits and vegetables we eat, and this is what they measured, that's what 80,000 people were measured for. The more fruits and vegetables we eat, the happier we are. And it's a volume-dependent response, which shows up most at 8 or more servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So the question might be asked, can more fruits and vegetables make people happy, or are happier people the ones who happen to eat more fruits and vegetables? So another study was done, and this was done in New Zealand with 300 people. The results were the same. As a matter of fact, there was one other thing that came out of that study, in that they saw the strongest positive results 2 days after those foods were eaten. Now, what would that be? What would the reason for that be? Well, or why the lag? It was found that this response had something to do with a critical nutrient. What is that nutrient? Fiber. Most people don't think of fiber as a nutrient. Well, it is. Fiber is only found in plants. Fiber is a nutrient, and it has everything to do with our body's happiness response. Well, a lot to do with it. I'll tell you why. Contained in our gastrointestinal tract, there are over 100 trillion microbes. They like fiber. They actually love fiber. They actually eat fiber. And the only thing they eat is fiber. Where do we get fiber? We get it from plants. If these bugs are happy, we're happy. Gastrointestinal tract, ours, is approximately 27 to 30 feet long. It begins in our mouth and it ends, well, you know where. It includes the mouth, which begins digestion, the esophagus, the stomach, the long small intestines, and then the small intestine ends at the ileum and then the colon. And the colon is where the party begins. In the colon is where we're going to find most of those microbiota. And I'm using the word microbiome. He never uses that word. He talks about our gut bugs. You see what I mean? About staying general with these things. When we eat manufactured food, because it's denatured, in most cases, the fiber is removed. If the fiber is put back on to impress us with the label, then it's usually a fiber that's not connected, in many cases, even to that particular food, but something added just to add some, I want to say scratchiness, some roughage. That's not the same. Because the foods are denatured, it quite often doesn't even make it past the stomach. If it gets beyond that, it's gone by the small intestines. When we eat plants with fiber, they make it through the stomach, through the small intestines, and they'll get into the colon. Our digestive tract in the colon is again where that party begins, because the colon is the home of that 100 trillion bugs. What do they want? Food. What do they eat? They eat fiber. What does the fiber do? Now, he doesn't mention this, but I'm going to. See, I can't help but get into the weeds. They produce something called short-chain fatty acids, but I'm going to leave that out of this because I'm reading his notes. But he leaves it at this. Again, the happier those bugs are, the happier our body is. When we eat plants, because of the high fiber content, we feed them what they want to eat, and it makes them happy. The better the food, the happier they get. Those plant foods make them healthier and happier. These are what we call good gut bugs. There are also bad gut bugs, and the bad gut bugs cause all kinds of trouble. When they're happier and healthier, we are healthier and happier. Dr. David Katz says has stated in a video that's part of the LIFT project. We have all heard that it takes a village to raise a human being, but in this case, we can truly say that it takes a village to be a human being. There are 10 times more bacteria than there are cells in our body. Together, we are a village. It's our job to take care of our, I'm going to use the word, microbiome. Almost everything related to modern living conspires against the microbiome. Against the microbiome we're to have. And that way, we may be swimming up, and in that way, we may be swimming upstream to take good care of ourselves. I just finished with a support group that I run with the at Lifestyle Medical, the office through which I work, and our patients talk about this. Those who are very cognizant about the value of plants in their diets say sometimes they feel like they are alone when they're with people that want to do what they're avoiding, and that is ingesting on a regular basis those foods that are known not to help the microbiome. And I'll be more specific in a minute. Up to 70% of our immune system is distributed throughout our gut. In addition, 70 to 75% of your neurotransmitters, those are the things like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, those are also created to a large degree, some in our brain, but to a large degree in our gut. So many lifestyle diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, stroke, and even many kinds of cancers are related to the immune system, and our gut. Included in this is our weight. Our weight is closely related to the microbiome and its output. Those gut bugs have a lot to do with what we ultimately feel that we need to eat. When people say, oh, well, I'm eating such and such because my body tells me I need to, a lot of that has to do with how those microbiome, those gut bugs, have been treated and trained. If they're trained on unprocessed foods, you have a microbiome that is going to demand, I didn't mean that, ultra processed foods. You're going to have a microbiome that's going to demand more of the same because the gut bugs have been trained to feed on those foods, which then quite often causes inflammation. On the other hand, a microbiome trained on a variety of fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes and seeds and nuts and spices have colonized with a wide variety of those microbiota, and what they want is simply more of that. That might be why those of us who eat a lot of plants love to eat plants, because it makes us happy, and it makes us happy because it affects our brain, but it also affects our gut. Let me keep going. The gut bugs, oh, here's an example of what we mean by your microbiome, meaning your population in your gut, in your colon, can determine weight. The gut bugs are when gut bugs from skinny mice were put into obese mice. Those obese mice became normal weight or thin, and vice versa, meaning that, again, as a example of what I'm saying, what we feed our gut bugs give us back in return what they expect of us, and we respond to that. Over 2,000, oh, wait a minute. Let me get to my last page. Scientists have also found that bacteria in our gut can affect our brain, and many are now calling the gut our second brain. When we say brain, we're referring to our limbic system as well as other areas of the brain. Part of our brain, or as I've said, the limbic system is the part of our brain that affects memory, mood, and happiness. That's truly the gut, food, and mood connection. Unfortunately, most people who eat a standard American diet starve their gut bacteria. And most people in Western cultures eat processed foods that are stripped of fiber, and primarily, as a matter of fact, I've seen the statistics, 62 to 65% of the modern diet is processed foods. Think of that. And a lot of the rest of that is meats and animal products. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, there's no fiber in meats and animal product. So what's left? Maybe 5-6% of what we eat are fruits and vegetables. That leaves a lot of really hungry gut bugs. This has led to a remarkable statistic. 97% of people who live in the Western world today are not getting their recommended amount of fiber. Now, people, because of what fiber has meant historically in terms of health, consider fiber to be nothing more than the brush that kind of brushes things down through the intestinal tract. They don't realize, and actually it wasn't known until within the last, what, 15, 20 years, and maybe more recently, especially more recently as it relates to even recommendations to be given about it. People didn't know about the gut biome. They didn't know about these trillions of microbes. They simply saw fiber as something that sort of moved things along. Therefore, your mother's or your grandmother's Metamucil. 97% of our population doesn't get enough fiber, which means that 97%, those people who make up the 97% are not feeding those gut bugs, which means that they have a population that's demanding of them more and more of the processed foods, and they're getting sicker on a regular basis because they're not feeding not only those healthy gut bugs, but also those gut bugs aren't feeding the body, our body, what it needs, nor are they feeding our brain what it needs that can help us stay not only healthier, but also happier and productive and thinking clearly and not depressed. That means there are a lot of unhealthy and unhappy people. What's interesting about that is that we hear so much about protein. Where do you get your protein? If anybody eats a lot of plants, and like me, I exclusively eat a whole food plant-based diet. You'd say, oh, that's vegan. Nah, that's whole food plant-based. A vegan can eat processed anything, an Oreo and a Coke, and that's still vegan. Whole food plant-based has no place for that. But in my case, in my husband's case, for going on 5 years now, we eat just whole food plant-based. And what's the first thing anybody asks us as we tend to be aging backwards? I'm 72, he's 71, is where do you get your protein? You know what nobody ever asks us is where do you get your fiber? And that's not because they realize that if you're eating plants, you got all the fiber that you need. It's because they don't know to even ask that. Most people, this is the best kept secret, most people don't know anything about fiber. That's a shame, because based on this description, based on what I've just said, fiber can not only, well, create stellar health in us, but it can also feed our mood, feed our body, feed our brain. I'll finish with this. Actually, I'll say I need to, and I'm going to, I haven't yet. When people ask me where I get my protein, I need to simply have a one-liner. Oh, I get plenty of protein, but I'm going to ask you, where are you getting your fiber? Because quite frankly, if they eat like an American, animal product for breakfast, animal product and fat for lunch, animal product and fat for dinner, look at most plates. How much vegetable do they have? I have people in my life that I've dined with that if they have a vegetable, it's this tiny amount on their plate. I wish I could change the world in that way, but I can't. So I let that be. So the takeaway here is that the secret ingredient in health and happiness, that vital nutrient, is fiber. And again, our brain, our gut, our mood connection is completely under its control. If you're going to make a change and you're going to feed those gut bacteria, first, understand that there's a variety of fiber out there. And one good way to know you're getting a variety is just to play with colors. Decide that every day, as often as you can, with every meal, you're going to eat a rainbow of plants. Whatever else you're eating, whatever else your style of dietary preferences is, add plants that add fiber, and know that you're feeding yourself. It becomes habitual, so be careful because the flavors can be so amazing. and you start feeling better and your bowels move better. A lot of people complain of constipation. The problem with constipation is it means that the stool is sitting there reabsorbing all that stuff that should be pushed out every single day, sometimes twice and 3 times a day. Now I'm getting into the weeds. So eat the colors of the rainbow with your plants. Make a game of that. And second, drink enough water. Our brain is 75% water, and when it's dehydrated, did you know it actually shrinks? Yes, it actually shrinks. You can't think well. If, as a matter of fact, when you have brain fog, first consider drinking plenty of water. Although the plant foods that we eat do contain a lot of water, it's still a good idea to endeavor to drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, and sip it throughout the day. Have some with you. Small sips are fine because our body only absorbs so much at a time, and small sips throughout the day keep it absorbing and keep things hydrated better and longer than drinking 1 or 2 of these 16-ounce glasses a day and then going in between with nothing. That's all I want to say. I very much enjoyed the way he laid this out, because I'm not telling you go whole food plant-based. I'm not telling you all of the reasons why, the things that I know and the things that inspired me and do to this day. He's simply laying it out there, the reality of it. We have gut bugs 10 times more than we have human cells that need one thing: to be fed. If they're fed, they keep us happy and they affect our brain. And that keeps us healthy and happy as well. You got to feed them. What do you feed them? One thing: plants that have fiber. And almost all plants have fiber because that's cellulose that the plant is built upon. Eat a variety, have plenty of water, and know that you're treating yourself in the best possible way you can. No more immune responses to things that are foreigners in our body, which could be leading to, who knows, a worldwide bad mood. That's not funny, but it's a possibility. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. You know that makes a difference, and subscribe. And I hope to see you at another of our PowerPoints or one of my recipe demonstrations. Have a great day, because you know I'm going to. Bye-bye.